Time keeps on leaving and we keep on moving. When do we pass on our wisdom to the youth? My veteran story, lost arts discussions, fireside chats with a bourbon or two. It's time to hear the stories by our military veterans. Get yourself ready. It's the Lost Arts Podcast. The Lost Arts with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast. That podcast giving a voice to our veterans. On today's episode, we have Marine veteran James Corona. Now, James, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you called me out for this. It's a pretty cool opportunity.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your story and everything that you got going on. You know, we kind of lost contact after the drill field and everything. We kind of went our separate ways. Every now and again, I catch you on the face pages, those types of things, but that was about it. So I'm excited to hear your whole story, your career, where you came from, all that stuff.
Cool, man. Yeah, I followed you for a little bit. I've seen that you made it all the way up.
I made it to Master Gunny, and then
not just Master
25.
Gunny. You're like a unicorn, believe it or not. I've never met really anybody in what you did in the Marine Corps.
Yeah,
and to meet you, one of the guys that was like the top dude. It's
thanks, man.
Like seeing a warrant officer pie. You know, oh, look at that.
Hey, there's not many. It's funny. Yeah. Well, hey, man, take us back. Like, where did you grow up, and then kind of tell us a little bit about that, and then what brought you into the Marine Corps.
Yeah. Well, I was born a twin, and when you're born twins, you're born to be very mischievous. So I think my mom knew I was going to go in the military. And one of the craziest things, I remember being a young boy, I grew up in a town just west of San Antonio called Hondo. It's actually the midpoint between here and Uvalde, where they had that school shooting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of my friends were teachers over there. And so, yeah, it was kind of really close to home on that one. But this small town Hondo, man, it's awesome. When I was there, we had 2,600 people. When I got back after boot camp, we had 9,000, and people were like, "Dude, it's 9,000." Like, no, it's 25 to 9,000 within a year and a half because of the oil boom.
Yeah,
but,
holy cow!
Yeah, nothing to do. So we grew up on a ranch, just acting a bunch of fool. Me and my twin brother and my older brother, always hunting, fishing. I mean, living that country life and riding horses all the time and working on the ranch. I knew I wasn't going to do any white collar stuff. I tried it, wasn't for me, and decided, one day when I was a kid, I seen the train going by and the National Guard had their stuff going on, I guess, to Del Rio, and I seen a 105, a howitzer, and me and my twin brother, soldiers, we're gonna shoot those cannons and blah blah blah. And I didn't even know this until I think my 12th year in the Marine Corps, and I'm like, holy crap, dude! Like I saw that. Like, I can't believe everything that I decided I wanted to do as a kid came to fruition. And here I am, as an artilleryman of all things. And when I got to Quantico, I got to live fire a M101 105 howitzer that was fired in the Battle of Guadalcanal.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
That is
dated all the way back.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Kind of figured that way. And then I met up with my wife, my little high school sweetheart. I got married when I was a senior in high school, small town.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it wasn't something very uncommon. So I joined the Marine Corps. I knew I was gonna have to do something. Football wasn't gonna cut it. I had a half scholarship to North Texas, but I came from a poor family, so there was no making up the other half. And I decided, well, it's time to go. So went to boot camp. My brother was a Marine. Recon back in the day. My other older brother, Air Force. My uncle was actually on one of the Blackhawks that went down in Mogadishu.
No kidding. Wow.
Oh yeah, man. We got a long line of history in the military, and even back to World War II. My mom's uncle was one of the medics. He was kind of like what's that guy's name? They had that movies. Just one more, God, just one more.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he didn't pick up arms. He just
my
went
uncle
in without
never
nothing.
picked up an arm either. He just his whole job was recover wounded from the battlefield. Didn't even have a gun.
Wow.
Yeah, the stories
That's
that he
amazing.
had were something else. But yeah, that was it. That was I got in a little bit of trouble, like I said, when I was young. And one of the signing moments where it was gonna be Marine Corps was the only recruiter that stepped up and said, yeah, we're gonna get this guy out of jail because someone had kicked my wife in high school and I kicked
Yeah.
him 5 times. I just he was 2 weeks shy of 18. So I got sent
Oh,
to jail. I got arrested at school, sent to jail, and recruiter found out and he came and was, are you ready to join? Believe it or not, but the judge that's in charge of you is a retired lieutenant colonel from the Marine Corps. And I was like, oh, okay. So they let me out. He goes, you signed that contract, you come back a week later with your contract and we'll expunge everything. And that's what happened. And
wow.
I had to make a quick decision on what exactly I was going to do. And next thing you know, I tell him, well, infantry. My wife said, nope, no husband is going to be dying. And I was like, all right, cool. So I looked up this other deal called fire direction control. They had a bonus for it. So I
Yeah.
did that. Contract got messed up in boot camp. I ended up becoming an 0811 rather than 0844, but I still got the
Mhm.
bonus. And I wouldn't have traded it for the world because I loved being an 0811. It was great. So
That's awesome.
yeah, but I joined
Well,
in, I
talk.
graduated in 2000 and I joined in 2000.
Okay. So talk to me about going to boot camp. Now, did you go? Did your brother go to boot camp with you, or did y'all go separate?
No, unfortunately, my twin brother dropped out of high school after 2 weeks of ninth grade. He
Mhm.
was more of that no collar.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a hard worker and that's all he wanted to do and that's what he did. So he
Okay.
had a 2 week ninth grade education and became a master welder and making $200,000 a year.
Nice.
No
Yeah,
education,
that's good.
but he had a knack for it. But when I joined boot camp, I actually went and one of my drill instructors was my brother's friend from Charlie Company, 1-3 or one
Oh, no kidding.
29 Palms. Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah, life
That's
wasn't
funny.
fun. I got letters that said was it to the Ferry Princess Senior Drill Instructor, Staff Sergeant Bass? And, so camp for me was horrible. Yeah, my brother, he let me have it. He would send pudding, he would send powdered donuts, jelly donuts, and drill instructors hated it. But I had fun in boot camp. I was a squad leader. Uh, I was a guide for a little bit until I hit somebody with the guide on and went from PFC to private, and then at the end of boot camp, I was like the only squad leader that left boot camp that didn't get promoted. I got demoted,
Oh, wow. Did they
but
hold
I
like
mean, I
an
still,
NJP and everything?
huh?
What'd they do? Did they do it
I,
like an NJP?
I think it was something like that, but I think it wasn't. I was contracted as a PFC, so when I got
So
in
they just took
trouble,
your contract
they
away.
just
Yeah.
took the contract away instead of
Gotcha.
having to go through the whole process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from that point on, I learned a real valuable lesson. The pencil is always mightier than the sword.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very true.
I
That's
took
crazy.
IT for a whole month straight, every single morning, every night, and at least 3 times a day in between. That was my punishment. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, I mean, not a bad way to go about it.
Yeah.
That's the way I
Yeah.
lived the
Definitely.
whole Marine Corps career.
Very nice. So, did your boot camp? Yeah, you went to San Diego, right?
I did. I went
Yeah.
Lima
Okay.
Company 3093
Okay.
back in
Got it.
2000. It's crazy how you can remember your drill instructors. Staff Sergeant
Oh,
Bass,
I'm telling
Scott
you.
Brockman, Sergeant Thompson, and Staff Sergeant Robertson, who, by the way, I thought was cool. Had a birthday on May 4th.
Yeah.
And guess who I get a call from? My third hat.
No kidding.
My drill instructor
Wow.
called me to wish me a happy birthday.
That's cool, man. It's
Yeah,
it's
you
funny
said
how
something.
it's funny how it's such a small world, and such a small organization of the Marine Corps, and then all of a sudden, like years later, your drill instructor's calling you. That's how
Yeah,
small the Marine Corps really is.
it's even smaller. So
Okay.
when I got done with the drill field, went back to Camp Pendleton.
Uh-huh.
Our new battalion FAC, Master Sergeant Robinson. My
Oh, really?
get this. Same time he showed up, one of my recruits, when I was a third hat, showed up to the same unit. So you had literally three different generations in one unit, and all of us were drill
Wow.
instructors. And that recruit, British, I guess it is. He just finished his tour on drill field too.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah,
That is really, really cool,
I
man.
must have done something right when I was there. Like they say, Marine Corps starts there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. So you went from there to MCT, or yeah, MCT for
Yep.
you, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went to
So you did
MCT
two
and
weeks there.
18 days back then. It was
Was it
literally
18?
18. Yeah, it was 18 days on the point. The night that I showed up, Halloween night, we
Yeah.
started. I got there late. They had us all when we were still in alphas. They were shuffling us in, dropping our bags, and we were marching to the supply and getting our stuff that very night. And 18
Wow.
days later, we're graduating and they're putting us on a plane to go to our MOS school. But
Holy
I
cow.
spent
So
5 months in Oklahoma after that.
okay, so yeah, that's right. Your MOS school is here in Oklahoma. That's where I'm at currently right now. I'm from Oklahoma, so I'm right here. But that's Lawton, correct?
Yeah, Lawton, Oklahoma.
Okay. And how was that for you? This is your first experience getting there, the gigantic guns, and learning about all of that, which is something from your childhood you saw, and you were like, "Wow, that's so cool."
Yeah,
What was that like for you?
unreal. I didn't even know like it was just it was unreal. It was
Yeah.
kind of like you get that numbing feeling. You're like, man, this is really happening. When we got to fire that first round, oh man, it just like you went from a full body tickle, just everything in your body was tickled. You were so dang happy, and we were shooting green bags, so we can actually see the round leaving the tube and
Oh
impacting at
wow.
the same time. So that
Oh, are
was
you
kind of
Hello,
serious.
hello, my
Oh yeah, it
friends,
was
and
really
welcome back
cool.
to the Lost Art Podcast. That
Wow,
podcast
I didn't
giving
know
a
you
voice
could
to our
see
veterans.
see the
On today's
actual round
episode,
go.
we have Marine
Yeah, you can see
veteran
that little black dot
James
just.
Corona.
I mean, it's
Wow.
but that was a green bag. It was one of the smaller charges, probably about
Yeah.
3 pounds of gunpowder at the most.
Okay.
Yeah, there's another one that it's what was it, 48 pounds of gunpowder stick. Look like little like the
Ooh.
size of a number two pencil, but they're
Yeah.
like 6 inches long, and this
Wow.
case about this big, 8 inches around, just full of it. And you gotta load that sucker in there. That one,
Wow.
that one, I think my granddaughter felt that one.
And how far does that go?
18.64 miles. Every time you shoot this we call them super sticks, super
Yeah.
8 pellets, your heart skips a beat. Per Marine Corps standards, we're only allowed to fire 12 in a 24-hour period. There was an incident. There's a video actually on YouTube where you can see the artillery rounds. They're like little green dots that are flying out. That
Yeah.
was actually I was on gun 6 for that particular video. The guy videotaping was Gunnery Sergeant Sereno. So that was actually me, Bravo Battery 111, doing
Wow.
a TOT into Baghdad. And there's that video, and we were shooting them. They're called base bleed, and we were
Yeah.
shooting them. We shot 64 in 34 minutes.
Holy
Yeah,
cow.
blacked out. A lot of us blacked out. We had no. I mean, it was daylight the next when I came to and standing in front of my truck, not even near the gun. Like, what is going on? Like, what? But yeah,
Wow.
68 of them in 34 minutes.
And you said because of that, you blacked out and then you just
Oh
didn't know
yeah,
what was happening. And then you came to at some other point in time.
straight muscle memory. And by that point, I think we had already been in the war for about 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
everything was we were just zombies moving, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Wow. Well, we'll get to that. Don't ruin it all for us yet, because right now we're
yeah,
still at your MOS school learning that. So, what else do you remember about being at your MOS school? I know Lawton, Oklahoma is a wonderful place from what everyone
in
that's
the
gone there
army
tells
now.
me. That's right. That's right.
Pauly Shore, the Pauly Shore movie was filmed there,
Yeah.
and I remember seeing them cattle trailers, and I
Yeah.
was like, "That's a joke." And when they would take us to our classes, they showed up in cattle trailers. Like, man, I used to haul cattle in these things back at home, and now they're hauling me like cattle. I was like, I guess I know how they see us now.
Yeah. And it about sums it up. That's good.
Yep. And then the snow was another experience. Apparently, Oklahoma doesn't get snow every year. I guess I don't know because they
No.
were
Well, it depends on where
so
you are, I
prepared.
think.
Lawton. Every time I go to Lawton in the winter, it snows every time. And
Really?
they're like, oh, we weren't expecting it. I was like, well, it's funny because I came here knowing I was gonna be here 6 months ago that it was gonna snow. It always does. And yeah, we
Wow.
got like a foot and a half of that dry snow that just
Yeah.
looks like sand. Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
horrible.
Like powder.
I
Yeah.
come from South Texas. We don't do snow.
You do heat, and
Yeah,
you
I didn't
guys do
know
it really
what to
well.
do in it.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I will call my mom, but my earth is white and cold. I don't know what's going on.
That's pretty funny. Was that your first time in snow? Was then?
First time I remember,
Okay.
back in '85, we had a really bad storm that rushed through South Texas, like that last one they just had recently.
No
And I
kidding.
think we had 2 feet of snow back then. So, but I was way too young to even know it.
Wow.
So never really experienced snow until I got there. And we were running PFTs and company formation runs, 6 miles in snow, people falling. It's funny when they think that we're going to go around, the stop sign, make a left turn flawlessly. Yeah, half of the platoon just whoop off into the grass and started sliding everywhere. It was fun.
That's good stuff. Oh man. So and that was you said how long?
Those runs,
No, no, sorry. The you were at the schoolhouse there.
I spent 5 months there. I showed up the day of the first class. So if I
Okay.
showed up the day before, I would have picked up in that class, but I got gypped out of that one. So I had to and it was already, I think, October 18th, I think it was. Not October, September 18th. So you had the holiday, so they weren't going to do any more classes. So I had to sit there and wait it
Oh,
out.
okay.
I finally finished my MOS school in on February
Okay. And then where did they send you?
2001. After that, I went. I chose Camp Pendleton, so they sent me out to
Nice.
111 in Camp Pendleton,
Mhm.
Las Pogas.
Okay.
Alcatraz, that place is giant bowl of nothing. Cell phones were just coming out. There was no cell phone. If you wanted to use your cell phone, you had to climb up Sheep Shit, which is the mountain that we have over
That's
there.
right. Yeah.
The only place you can get signal. That's why they called it Pogatraz.
That's very true. And I think it's pretty similar now. I don't know. It might be better, but I know going through there is like driving and stuff. I never got cell service through there.
Oh no, man! It's just a giant bowl.
Yeah.
Mountains completely surrounding it.
Hmm.
Everybody else is lucky; they get the view, and we just see mountains covered in sheep doo doo.
Yeah.
That's
So
where it
hey,
got the name from.
what year was that you showed up there?
2001, February 2nd, 2001.
Okay. All right. And then so you were there through 9/11. Is that right?
Kind of. So
Kind of. Okay.
as soon as we got there, they said, hey, they sent our entire class. Pretty well, I think maybe with the exception of a few that had contracts to go to the East Coast and
Yeah.
Hawaii, but they sent our entire class to 111 Bravo Battery
Wow.
because they were scheduled to leave on the 15th Mu on the Westpac, August 4th of 2001.
Oh,
So
okay.
when I got there, the very next day, we were already putting cami paint on, doing it was post Vietnam, so green
Yeah,
cami paint, going
that's
through
right.
whatever jungles we can find. Next thing you know, we're in the
Yeah.
desert. But yeah, they put us on a boat August 4th. We got to Hawaii 2 weeks later, and that's when I got a phone call that I was going to be a daddy. That was
Oh,
kind of
no kidding.
really, I didn't know what the heck to think, but a friend of mine, Sergeant,
Wow.
he was guy. We were going to go see the was it Pearl Harbor, the Arizona, the
Oh, yeah,
memorial.
yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So we were all in uniform in Charlie's, and here's my
Yeah.
buddy doing cartwheels. Corona's gonna be a dad. Woo! I'm gonna be an dad. He's just doing cartwheel after cartwheel, and I'm sitting
Oh,
there at the
that's funny.
phone, just not knowing what was going on, and yeah, so that I was pretty excited. And I'm like, okay, now I really have a reason to come back from this, and hopefully nothing kicks off. We pulled anchor. We headed towards Australia for a
Hmm.
scheduled port, and we stopped in Darwin.
Hmm.
So we did a 5-day field out there. We actually lost a tank. 2 guys got killed coming
No
off of the
kidding.
the LCAC. Yeah, they hit
Wow.
something, and the gate came open, and it wasn't strapped down right, and the 2 Marines drowned in it. And yeah, we took that. So
No kidding.
we were dealing with that. And then the last night we were there was the 10th of September. And they're like, hey, we're going to give y'all one night libo. When y'all wake up tomorrow, y'all get to go out and have fun in Darwin, Australia, but only for a few hours. And right when our curfew was about to end, we started watching the TVs because we were just completely drunk. And I
Yeah.
remember telling the bartender, like, hey, man, what's up with that, dude? That's like some crappy movie. I thought y'all liked America. They're like, nah, mate, that's live telly. We're like, what do you mean that's live telly? Started ringing, cars were hauling butt, and we're like, what's
Wow.
going on? They're like, hey, we just got a call. Y'all got to get back to your boat. I'm like, why? They're like, oh, there's about to be a war. So we started getting all
Oh,
excited and
wow.
everything else, drunk, and we're going to war. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
had Aussies that were trying to climb on board. They're like, I got a gun, I'll bring my own gun. And oh, they were ready to go.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so I
Wow.
didn't get to see a lot of everything that went down because as soon as we
Yeah.
got to the ship, they went to was it River City, radio silence, and
Yeah.
um
Wow.
and me, remember what happened a month prior? Or a couple weeks prior, I'm being told that I'm gonna be a dad. So now I'm just
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
oh. So I didn't even find
Mind
anything
blown.
out until later. After we got done, we got on the boat. They didn't even let us watch the TVs. They didn't want to hear, get everybody all stirred up and everything. And
Yeah.
September 18th, I think we finally set foot on a 53 en route to Kandahar.
Wow.
Not
No
the
kidding.
Persian. Yeah, we got there as quick as we could, and we were out there. I was like 100 and I think 127 number, my number for getting off. So I was the 127th person to set foot in Afghanistan for the initial war or
No kidding.
the Afghan campaign.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing, man.
19 years old.
127.
Yep. I was 19 years old. I
Man.
was just a kid, but it was a different era back then. I don't think they really
Yeah.
didn't call us kids. They called us bad words, Where nowadays it's like, oh, the kids, oh, you're just a kid. Back then,
Yeah.
it was different. So it was easier for me to transition into getting in that warrior mind state. And we
Yeah.
had this
Yeah.
colonel or this captain named Captain Joe Russo. He's like,
Okay.
gents, I don't know what to tell you, but I joined this institution to die a warrior. If I don't come home, I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna bring all y'all home, but don't expect to live. If you expect to live, you'll die. I'm like, all right. So he's like, play like you're gonna die and you're gonna live. Which,
Wow.
you cut out
Yeah.
all the what if I did this? No, you do it.
Yeah.
Answer that to later. When things go, when a decision has to be made, you make that decision. And Captain Russo prepared us so well for that, man, that we didn't lose a single person on that first deployment from
Now,
our individual unit.
did you go as a battery or were you doing something different?
We went, okay, so since we were on the boats, we didn't have the capability because we had to take a 6.5 hour flight. There's no way to take howitzers
Yeah.
6.5 hours. So they're like, all right, we're just going to send y'all as provisional rifle. And what we did was we flew to Shabazz Airfield in Pakistan, and they needed the airfield there, so they sent us with Bravo Company 11 boat company. We took the airfield, we established it as our own. Air Force started moving in, so we were only supposed to be there for 8 days, and then we were going to transition either back to the ship or we were going to meet up with the rest of the effort in Kandahar at Camp Rhino.
Right.
And the Air Force, I guess they were getting pop shots a lot on
Yeah.
the T5s and all that. So they asked us to stay. And we're like, we just don't have the material. We can't stay.
Yeah.
And you know what? What do y'all need? And we're like, really? Like, you know what? We want cake and we want Porta Johns. They got us cake and Porta Johns because it was a Marine Corps birthday coming up. So they went and got us the cake from the United States. They made us Porta Johns and showers. They gave us some phone calls. It was the first time we got to get any type of phone call after 9/11. So
Yeah.
any contact with loved ones or anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a different era back then. Cell phones weren't really.
Oh yeah.
So it was, you had to kind of guess the right time to call back home where you can see if someone's going to be there.
Yeah, because most of the time they weren't.
Yeah,
you're overseas, you call. You're
in a whole different.
Not getting them.
Yeah, you're a whole different day off from them, and they're just they're nuts. So yeah,
it's not like today. You can just text somebody, "Hey, are you awake?"
I don't know how true this is, but they're talking about letting recruits use cell phones nowadays.
I haven't seen that.
I just think it's going to be more of a headache. I think, let them bring it, put it in their bag. When they graduate, they can have it back. It takes away from the training aspect.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we focus on the mission at hand, not, driving and texting like everybody else in this world.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen that they're actually doing that. But I mean, maybe they are. I don't know.
Air Force does.
Do they really?
Yeah, my wife just got out a couple of years ago, or what am I saying? She just got out a year ago, literally 1 year ago. She got out, and
okay.
A lot of her friends and that I met up with were MTIs, and they
Yeah.
would give me all that stuff. I'm like, man, that's nuts. But their job is different.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's very true. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. So, okay. So you spent, how long were you over?
So
Now you
that
were
eight
on
day
the Air Force
mission,
Base, right?
that 8 day mission turned into a 32-day mission.
Okay.
Yeah, so we didn't have anything, man, and we were in fighting holes. We were still digging, but the ground there is so saturated in Pakistan that the more you dig, the more water builds up. So you could
Yeah.
go 30, I think it was 30 something inches, 32 inches deep. But then after that, you were in a pool. So it was literally like
Wow.
World War I, World War II, work, fighting in the trenches and
Yeah.
constantly being in that cold water all day, every day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and
Holy
then
cow.
on top of that, my fire team, it was me, Corporal DeWitt, Corporal Sparks, and Corporal Hagedorn. We're all
Mhm.
NCO, so we all got promoted fast. I know I did, but so they had our fire team there. Like, hey, we need some guys that know what they're doing. There's that Black Hawk that the Navy SEALs that got shot down in Afghanistan. They had to retrieve the Black Hawk and bring it back, but they dropped it off outside the wire. Yeah,
Wow.
they left it there and they didn't have any other way to move it. So they're like, hey, we need a fire team to go out there and protect it. They chose my fire
No
team. So
kidding.
we were literally in the cross section of two FPFs.
Whoa.
Yeah, so if they would have came over that wall and took that helicopter, we would have just been expended.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. They were like, they're there to protect it, but if something happens, they're like, y'all got to know, y'all are gonna get shot in the back.
Yeah. Holy cow. Well,
Yeah,
that's a fun thing to be experiencing. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like I said, I was just 19 years old.
Yeah.
We were young, and they're telling us that we got to do that, and we're like, okay. I think the oldest person there was 21.
Wow.
Yep, and they put us out there, and so we learned some stuff. We got
Yeah.
awarded for it. It wasn't much of an award, but we got the NAM Combat V, and because
Yeah.
we did take some shots. We had to forcefully take people out of their vehicles because they were scouting the helicopter, and it was top
Oh
secret.
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
We had to do yeah, it was fun. I After that we they sent us back to the boat, and then we spent a couple of days on the boat, and then we went back to Camp Rhino, and then we
Oh,
saw
no
some
kidding. Okay.
combat. We actually got to shoot mortars. Took out
Oh,
a
okay.
truck loaded with a bunch of combatants.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah,
Now,
so
did you
19 years
have
old, first
you
combat
guys
action.
practice shooting mortars before you did it, or is that just kind of
Nope.
on the
I,
fly? And you said it's basically the same thing, just smaller.
a lot smaller. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot smaller, more high angle. The 81s that were there, they needed extra bodies because
Yeah.
they were run thin, and they're like, hey, we got some gun bunnies, and they're like, well, send them our way. What better people than a gun bunny to be on a mortar? So yeah, we got to take over
Gun
the
bunny.
mortar.
That's good. I like it. All
Yeah.
right. So, and you said you that was your first combat action was there. And what was that? You said you took out a truck. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was a white truck. It was loaded up. We got some guys with RPGs and uh, AK-47s and just some regular small arms. They got some cool looking guns over there, little pistols that are fully automatic. It's kind of neat. But
Oh wow.
we don't know exactly where they were going. We just get the mission.
Yeah.
The FOs know more about it. They didn't tell us. They just say, hey, he's right there. Make him everywhere. So we're like, okay. So we scattered them everywhere.
Wow. Very
Yep.
cool. And then how long were you there?
We spent 2 weeks there, and then we switched out with I think the 26 Mu relieved us.
Okay.
But before they came out, we had done something that the Marine Corps hadn't done since I think it was World War II, and they established an Army brigade with a joint brigade with the British Royal Marines, the Army, the Navy, Air Force, and the Marines, all within one, but under the direction of an Army general.
No
So
kidding.
yeah, we
Wow.
had a 3-star general that was in charge of us.
Hmm. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah, it was kind of. I mean, you don't hear those joint service and brigades being formed unless they're time of war. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they said that when they did that, that was the only time that you'll ever see a 5-star general. But
Yeah,
they didn't
yeah,
do
yeah.
it this time. But that's where the 5-star general comes from the brigade,
No
from
kidding.
being attached to foreign militaries. So that was
Wow,
really cool.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. So at that point, then you switch out, you go back to the boat, and then you guys come back home.
We still had to make some scheduled stops. So we got to stop in Sydney, Australia for a
Mhm.
week.
Nice.
Yeah, so we went to Sydney and then we went to Perth. But in order to
Yeah.
get to Perth, you had to go through Fremantle. So we stopped in Fremantle, ported, and then we catch a train to Perth.
Okay.
Man, beautiful country. I loved it. We spent some time there, and then we made our way back to Hawaii, where we spent 2 weeks in Hawaii, all vacation, off
So
because the ships
you
needed to get.
actually got to go be on vacation while you were there.
And the best part, my friend Malo,
Yeah.
he's from the island of Oahu. His family's in Waikiki,
Ah, okay.
and his grandmother was celebrating her 101st birthday the day that we got there. So not only did we
Wow.
get vacation, we got the local treatment.
Yeah. 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 That's awesome.
Oh yeah, man! And my wife flew out there with my daughter. I got to meet my daughter.
Oh, wow. First time you met
Oh,
your daughter was there.
my bad. That was just too many deployments. They didn't come on that one. They came on the other one. It was a different.
Okay.
She was still in the belly on that one, but
Okay.
no, my wife flew out there. She was pregnant. We got to spend some time in Hawaii, and then she flew back. And then when I got home, was kind of another cool thing, kind of, because as soon as we were done there, we made our way back. And one of the funny stories is it's one of the roughest parts of the sea between Hawaii and California.
Uh-huh.
And we hit, I think they said it was like a 32 degrees cant or something, where we hit a wave and that ship just shifted. Everything in the ship went one way and it went back the other way. But the
Oh
funny
my
part,
God.
that big black guy, a big sergeant dude, lost control and went straight into the big screen TV,
Oh,
whole body, and everybody. We were kind of mad, but we're like, well, who's gonna tell him something? He's larger than life.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and
Wow.
another cool thing about that deployment, I'm not really sure if you know him, but his name is Rudy Reyes. Came out in that movie Generation Kill.
I know. Yeah, I know the name.
Well, he was one of the active duty guys, recon guys. He actually played in the movie, played himself in the movie.
Oh, no
Um,
kidding.
I was actually on deployment with him. He was in the berthing next to us, and we used to have birthing wars. They thought that they could
Oh,
handle artillery above us. They're like, oh, we're
yeah.
recon. Okay, we're 120. You're 10. So yeah, we took one of them hostage, a guy named Coker, Sergeant
Yeah.
Coker, his other friend Ashby. We called them the Barbarian Brothers. They were both 6'5", 6'6", 300+ pounds, recon dudes.
Oh my God.
And we grabbed Coker and we pulled him into the hole. And Ashby saw one guy named Acosta, a guy about as big as me. Ashby reaches down, grabs him by his neck, pulls him out of the hole, and says, "Oh, y'all want to go?" We're like, "Dude, this is on. This is gonna hurt, but this is gonna be so fun."
Oh, wow.
But we kept Coker for 2 days, and we got in all kinds of trouble.
You
Getting
kept
at
it for
people,
2 days.
especially recon. He's training.
Oh man, that's too funny.
Yeah,
I like that. That's a good story there.
that was
Yeah.
fun. Hey, we had it was another time where it was New Year's, and someone had got a package in the mail, which was one of some firewater. You're not supposed to have them, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was firewater. And we got to drinking it. And back then, on the boats, had these big brown bags that you had to separate your trash in, and one of them's full of aluminum cans. And a
Yeah.
buddy of mine, Jason Kovaric, loved sardines, and the idiot threw them in the
Oh,
bag. So that night that we're drinking, we start listening to House of Pain jump around. Well, somebody hit the can, it made noise, and then when you make noise with a bunch of drunk idiot Marines, it just, dude, that place reeked. The sardine juice was everywhere, beer was
oh
everywhere.
no.
Oh, it was the most rank smell you could think of. But good times, man. We loved it.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, that would be horrible. Not to
Oh,
mention you're on a ship, and if you don't enjoy the rocking of a ship, and then you mix
28
that in
people.
with it. You mix the smell into it. Woo, buddy.
Yeah, you got 48 people in a 26-foot long area stacked
Yeah.
high. Yeah, you're in everybody's. You can
And
smell
no
what
escape.
somebody's thinking.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that was a
Wow.
lot of fun.
All right. So you get back to Pendleton, and then you stay in the same unit, or were you
I did.
transferred, or you did?
I,
Okay.
I stayed in the same unit only because, being that we had already kicked off somewhat of a war at that
Yeah.
time, they were freezing movements for everybody. The only thing they
Hmm.
were doing was they were building up units back then, and so we all stayed, which was freaking awesome because as soon as we got back, we did our post deployment leave, and we
Hmm.
picked back up on training again. We actually hit a double CAX out in 29 Palms,
No kidding.
and
Wow.
so that was yeah, that put us all the way into October 1st because I re-enlisted out
Hmm.
there, and right after that, we got back. We were working on the deployment or doing a couple other field ops, and they said,
Yeah.
"Hey, we're going to do some desert training. There's something coming down the pipeline that we're going to be going to some desert somewhere, but it's not Afghanistan." So we had already kind of had an idea that we were probably going to go to Kuwait.
Yeah.
You know, it was no secret. So we started training for that in January. What was that? December. We got the call.
Okay.
So we were all on vacation, and we got the 72-hour call that says, "Hey, y'all need to get back." We had 72 hours. We got back to the unit. We packed up. Man, literally 72 hours later, we were at March Air Force Base, getting on a plane heading to Kuwait. So not only did our unit
Wow.
stay together, we were probably the most experienced combat Marines in the Marine Corps at that time because we were the first ones to go into Afghanistan. So
Yeah.
we went when we were ready to go to this one. Everything was still fresh on our mind. We still
Hmm.
smelled like deployment. We still had
Yeah.
sand from Afghanistan, and we went straight to Kuwait and we sat there and we waited. And that's when the war kicked off. And that's um, I had left my wife and I had a daughter at the time. She had already been born, so that deployment was a little bit harder to leave from.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah. So for you, and I know there's a lot of Marines that have babies and they have to deploy. What is that feeling like for you as you had to do that?
awesome. So we had this captain. So we ended up getting a new CO, Captain Galerter. He was really big on Marine Corps history.
Hmm.
He liked to tell stories. He had this book called The Good Book, and he would
Yeah.
read like citations of awesome battles that went down, and we
Okay.
would have to tailor our training to it. So one of them was they had to move 105 howitzers,
Hmm.
right? Back in the day, they didn't have all the vehicles, so they had to do it by hand. So what did our CO do? He went and got 3 105s and told our unit, "We're going to take those up sheep shit, take them back to side of sheep shit. We're going to run around Las Pocas and let them know that Bravo battery's taking charge of this place." And that's what we did. We ended up putting a big B on the side of the mountain, and everybody started copying us after that. But yeah, we took
Wow.
we took those howitzers, ropes, tent poles, you name it, everything, and we ran them damn things up the mountain. We did another one where they had to do a resupply, and I forgot the
Yeah.
description. I really wish I could remember them. So we go to the training school, and they have logs out there.
Yeah.
We know the answer. Okay, everybody knows the answer is coming up. What's the fastest way to get from point A to point B? Nobody raised their hand except for one idiot named Campbell, Robert Campbell. He goes, "Oh, straight line, sir." He goes, "Very well. We're gonna take these logs in a straight line up to the top of that mountain right up there." He's like,
Oh.
"Do you not see where you're pointing?" There's a picture of them that I got where we actually were at the top of the mountain bringing up telephone poles up the side, the face, not the trail, but the face. We were walking by rattlesnakes and I mean, you name it. Coons were running around. Oh, it was intense. It was fun. So we took
Wow.
the mountain. We did a ceremony up there for someone that got a NAM, and we
Yeah.
took them around Camp Las Pogas. Went to the pool and we started doing water drills with water
Nice.
logs
Oh
in the pool,
God.
dude. Yeah.
Wow.
When I say we trained for
Yeah.
war, we trained.
Yeah.
And
No kidding.
he put that warrior mentality on us. And one of his biggest things was the Spartans. And
Hmm.
the Spartans had this thing, it's called the stick breaking ceremony, where half of the stick, they would write something on it that would represent their family, their their life outside of war, and then on the other side of the stick would be their warrior side. What is it that made them a warrior? Something that just described them as a warrior.
Yeah.
We would do a prayer and break the stick breaking ceremony, and take the family stick, put it in a bag, and the CO would carry it with him the entire time that we were deployed. And at the end of the deployment, we would get them back. So that when we went into combat, we went in with our battle stick, with a warrior mentality, and leaving was a little bit easier. So when I actually left my wife and my daughter, it was like, all right, bet, catch you later. See you. I gotta go to work. And she's like, yep,
Yeah.
that's my man. He's going to work. And it was easier then because we just got back too. So it was still kind of fresh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty ingenious,
Yeah.
taking it and then have like it's a mental shift, and that's an awesome thing to have.
Oh, dude, it was great.
That's amazing.
There's there's an actual video of it too.
Oh yeah.
So, the war started, was it April 21st, I think they said, or 20th?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I get confused, and for good reason. It wasn't the same day where we were at.
Yeah.
It was the day prior. So when we were sitting in Kuwait, we had to protect ourselves from any, fires that would come over from Afghanistan or from Iraq. So they had a counter battery radar battalion, and each battalion would spend 3 weeks out by the border, by the berm, to protect from any Scud missiles or artillery rounds or any preeminent attack from Iraq. And when it was our turn, we were on I think we had 2 days left, and then we were talking about we were going to go back, we're going to get all cleaned up, blah, 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 blah. And the last day we were there, we get, hey, President Bush says we're going to war tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. We're going to haul ass back to Camp Matilda, and we're going to get freshened up and everything else. But before we go, we were going to do the stick breaking ceremony now. So we did a 50-50. So half of the battery stayed on the gun line. The other half would come back to the CO. We'd do our prayer, stick break, and they'd go back. And I was on the second group. As soon as we got done and we said amen, we heard boom, 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 and you can just feel it. They launched two missiles at us, and they exploded within 1,000 yards from us. They missed us by a lot, 1,000 yards.
Wow.
But close enough to feel it. And we're like, what? So we were just like, no. And then you hear the GDU, which is the gun display unit, go, dee, fire mission. What? Fire mission? Like, oh, man, we just did the stick breaking ceremony. And I'm still getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
And we start running, and the guns are 100 meters apart. Because you have to I was gun 6, and we were behind gun 2. Yeah, I had to run
nice
all the way back to my gun, trying to gasp for air. Because by the time we got there in full gear, and they're like, "What's the quadrant? What round are we shooting?" They're like, "Wrap round, blah blah blah." Trying to get these rounds loaded, and then they're like, "Fire! Boom, 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 boom!" We shot the first rounds into Iraq. It was about noon, 3 o'clock, between noon and 3 o'clock that day. So the war had already started, and nobody had even knew about it. We had already been taking enemy fire prior to even what do they call it?
The announcement or anything?
The LOD?
Yeah, departure. Yeah.
We were shooting rounds 9 hours prior to that. Already.
Wow. No kidding.
Yep. And then
now I always heard about Safwan Hill. Is that right?
Yep.
So you were part of the batteries that were hitting Safwan Hill?
Yep, we I think they called it Hill 787. I think General Mattis said we're going to turn Hill 787 into Hill 71 or 777. We're going to knock 10 feet off that hill, and yeah, it was kind of neat. That hill, man, it's just like this. There's nothing out there, and then there's Safwan Hill, and I realized they used that for Kuwait before they would put their FOs up there, and they could see the entire country of Kuwait from there. That's how they were able to go to Kuwait and have a bird's eye view. So, yeah, we got to the border that night, and the first rounds that went off, you couldn't see anything. The dust had kicked up. It felt like a mule had just kicked you in the chest when you fired that first stick propellant, because it was the big ones.
Yeah, it's the big one, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And that's the night you were saying earlier where you fired so many you kind of blacked out.
This was the first.
Or is that different? Well, that was the first time.
2 weeks into the war. So we had been doing, so that was one of the first ones. again, we blacked out. I remember it being night, and then I remember coming to again, and I looked over at gun 5, and I saw my buddy Silva, and he's just standing there, just looked like he was standing there dead. We were just so depleted, energy, nothing
Wow.
left in us because we were supposed to. We just spent 3 weeks with no showers, MREs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were already at the point like we had already been there for 3 weeks
Yeah.
fighting, and yeah, we blacked out. A lot of us blacked out, and it was
Wow.
weird. And then they were like, "All right, CSMO, get our stuff, throw them in the trucks," and we just started moving into the LOD, and we
Yeah.
went to through the Ramallah oil fields. That
Hmm.
was probably the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life.
Really?
Oh yeah, because they set all the rigs on fire, just like
Yeah.
they did back in the day. And we had to drive right through the Ramallah oil field. So we did a fire. We had a couple fire missions prior to going through it, and we had a combat load. So you take we have separate ammo trucks that brings our ammo, but then we have stuff in our truck just in case they say what thing called a hip shoot, where you literally just pull off the side of the road and just shoot around, and wherever it lands, we adjust from that. So we just basically Hail
Oh,
Mary
wow.
down toward the enemy, and we adjust from there. So we kept
Holy
rounds in the
cow.
back. We're only supposed to have 15. I think we had 74 in the back of the truck.
My
Oh yeah,
God.
completely off SOP. And back then there was no SOPs at that point,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we try to make things faster. So we would strap down the ammo containers for all the ammo, and we would just leave
Yeah.
those, but just refill them with different ones.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
the lids were, we couldn't find the lids. We didn't care because we were going to keep shooting. And then they said, "Oh, we're going through Ramallah oil fields." Like
Oh, no.
we have open canisters, and oh man, you can just feel the heat just being a couple hundred yards away. You can feel the heat
Yeah.
already. And we had to drive within 100
Wow.
feet of them. Oh yeah, we
That is
just put our
crazy, man.
bodies on the openings of the canisters, and we had to
Uh,
literally protect the heat from entering the canisters because of that ether would just ignite.
yeah.
But boom, everybody gone.
Holy cow. You didn't have any incidents though, right?
Thank God, no.
Yeah. Wow. That
Yeah,
is crazy. Yeah, I can see how that would be terrifying. Yeah.
big time pucker factor.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Holy cow. And
So
then once you got through the fields, where did you end up?
after the Ramallah oil fields, we went to, I think it was a city called Al Kut.
Hmm.
And before we went to Al Kut, we had to stop and do a mission in Basra. So we were en route to
Okay.
Al Kut via Basra, and while we were there in Basra, we took some heavy resistance. Uh, we fought like hell there, and I remember before we left, we were shooting a stick defense, and one of our guys are like, "Hey, we're gonna go in when we leave. We're gonna get enemy contacts. We gotta make sure the crew serves are good. So get all the gunners up there on the trucks, get them up there cleaning them while we were shooting rounds. Well, on the
Yeah.
50 cal, you got that stud bolt. You lose that stud bolt. That 50 cal is a paperweight.
Yeah. A
We hit
big
that stick
paperweight.
propellant, and the bolt fell into the motor into the motor cavity. Couldn't find it. Now we
No.
don't have a crew serve. And we're like, what the heck? And they're like, driver brief. And that's, we're leaving. So they're going to go get the brief where we're going. And we're like,
Yeah.
we don't have a crew serve. And like, I bet you they're going to send a Zulu order, which is gun 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You go alpha, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if
Yeah.
you go Zulu, gun 6 is the first vehicle without a
Yeah.
crew serve.
Oh no.
So our ammo guys, hey, we got a Mark 19 back there. Like, what do you mean you got a Mark 19? Oh yeah, our truck comes with a Mark 19. Well, where is it? It's not on the ring mount. Well, no, it's in the trailer. How long has it been in the trailer? Well, since we left Matilda. I'm like, dude, it was like 6 weeks ago, dude. It was buried. Cox, it was buried. When I say buried, you have to find dust. It was buried. You know how you do those take down or tear down the 50 cals and Mark 19s and build them back up in the time? We
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
3 minutes to tear it down, clean it, reassemble it, change the ring mount or the oh my god, the gun mount on the truck, change
Yeah.
it out because it was rated for a 50 cal. Finally get it up there, man, and it's not moving. So we're like, hey, where's the LSAT? Oh, we don't bring LSAT. Like, what? Nobody had LSAT. How do you not have LSAT? We're going to fight a war.
Wow.
So I find a can that I took from one of the houses that I saw there. It was
Yeah.
oil. And we filled it with COP, man. I was just up there because nobody else wanted to, everybody was scared. I happened to win the division crew serve shoot. So I was
Yeah.
the number one gunner. So I was like, well, I'll do it. So I ended up taking over the Mark 19. And as soon as they got back, man, they were like, hey, we're going Zulu order, Zulu order. And I'm like, what? It's not, they're like, it's not chambering. It's not taking around. They're like, dude, you need to get it going now. And I remember being on top of that. Mark 19 says, trying to get that bolt to come back forward, and it wasn't going. And we're moving, and we hit, I think, about 45, 50 miles an hour, and our security vehicle in front of us starts opening up. And I'm like, good God. So they got their saw and their Gulfs, and they're just lighting up things to the left and right, and I'm up there trying to get to go, and it never went back in the battery, and I had to yell at somebody to give me my 203 so I can at least die fighting.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get without a gun, without firing around. And man, we were up there. So we got it. Took a couple of people out, and I heard, yes. So I went, redid it again because you got to do it twice, and it was ready to go out. Dun, 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 dun.
Wow.
My
what in the world do you think it was that stopped it?
That dust.
Just dust.
Imagine baby powder. That's what this thing was buried in. And I had to take out the sear. The sear assembly had to be completely taken apart because it was caked. The whole, and without the sear assembly, you don't have a gun. So I had to take it apart, drench it in COP, and I didn't have a brush. So I had to use my toothbrush. I was out of a toothbrush for 3 weeks. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Holy cow, man.
But yeah, we got it to work.
But you did it though.
Yeah. We went through so many firefights after Basra. We ended up getting stuck in not an ambush, but the grunts were on the road, and we had to do a regimental TOT for recon. So we had to go past those guys.
Oh, no kidding.
Fire those rounds. Yeah, it's pretty bad when you're passing up the guys that are fighting around. And we had they were herringbone within the road, and they had tanks in between. So we're driving slowly through it, and you just hear ting, 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 choo, choo, choo. The bullet just whizzing by you, and I can hear it in the front of my Mark 19. I'm just like, at the end of that war, I counted 18 bullet marks on my Mark 19.
No kidding.
Yep, they were all meant for me.
Lord,
I know, right?
That's crazy.
And
man,
we had just got a brand new shipment of new guys before we went out that 3 weeks. They just came from Fort Sill. No gear. They didn't have sappy plates, no flak jackets, nothing. I had to give my flak, but I was like, if a bullet goes to the front of this Mark 19 and it kills me, it deserves it. So I got this.
So you went no flak jacket behind the Mark 19, and you said 18. You counted 18 rounds that hit the Mark 19.
Yep.
Man, I'm telling you, somebody was looking out for you. That's for sure.
I know, and that wasn't. And we didn't have sandbags up there. We didn't have those cool looking ring things.
Well, that didn't come for several years later.
No, we didn't have.
I mean that. Yeah. I remember going in OIF 2, and there was no armored up Humvees. There's nothing. And that was after that part, So it was years later before they got all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's when we almost lost Captain Fry. He caught an RPG in his door, blew his arm off. So we didn't have any type of protection. Anything that came through, we had. I remember seeing RPGs just going in between the vehicles because we got to after that Basra, after that big fight and all that, we got to Al Nasiriyah, and it was the day after that army unit that got ambushed there with Jessica Lynch. We set up right next to their crash site, and that's where we were pumping out the rounds. We supplied the artillery fire. We didn't shoot any from them, but when the recon and Delta Force came in to go get that young girl, we were the unit that was tasked to support them in case they needed.
No kidding.
But they didn't get any resistance, so it was a waste of time. But we were there, and right next to us was the vehicles, and then to our other flank was the British Royal Marines shooting their 120 howitzers. So we actually had Americans and British both firing into Al Nasiriyah. That was the first bloodiest battle.
Yeah, I mean that was a huge battle. Yeah.
The only way to get through the other side of Al Nasiriyah was to go over the river, and drive through a certain area called Sniper Alley. And
Yep.
the thing about it is that their road was built up on a berm, and we're basically just driving over it, and you got buildings that are just you're there, you're just
Yeah.
fishing a barrel, and it's dark, it's nighttime, you just see lights going different directions, and you really don't even know
Holy
where to
cow.
shoot. You just got to kind of guess where the flash came from, and
Yeah.
just focus your fire. Since I had a Mark 19,
Made
I
it a
mean,
little easier.
4 or 5 rounds got pretty close to him. I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
That
So
one was scary.
let me ask you this, because there'll probably be some young Marines that watch this, right? And you obviously have faced yourself in battle and combat and seen all this stuff happen. What advice would you give those young Marines if they were getting ready and prepped for those types of things?
They're human.
There you go.
They're bad guys, right? We're bad guys. There's good guys, there's bad guys. They're humans. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Um, you can't look at the enemy. You have to respect the enemy. If you don't
Mhm.
respect the enemy, then you become a lost person. Your soul gets the devil takes your soul, and
Yeah.
you're going to be the next person that's getting sent home in a pine box. But by respecting them, and it kind of helps you see things different. Like,
Mhm.
do I want to kill somebody unintentionally, or do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it hurt to have to kill somebody, but at the same time, he was going to do it to me,
Yeah.
and I can't hold. And I never held it against them because they're just doing what they're told. You know,
Yeah.
you just have to realize that everybody, we're all human. We're just doing what we have to do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
don't let it be personal. Don't let it be something that's going to drag you down to hell. Just do your job.
Yeah.
Not when I would shoot at targets, I literally it would look like silhouettes,
Mhm.
like rifle range, and that's how I saw my targets. And when I
Yeah.
engaged them, I engaged the target. I didn't engage enemy. I didn't engage another person. I engaged targets. It
Yeah.
kind of helped mentally deal with the aspect of killing somebody.
Yeah. 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 No, that's good. Good word. Good word of advice. I like that. So you made it to Anazaria. Can't even say it. But you make it there, and then at that point, did you stay, or did you go all the way up to Baghdad?
So after Al Nazria, we had to push through Al Nazria, and once we got to the other side of Nazria, there was a Scud attack that hit
Hmm.
on the other side or something. So we had to go into Mach 4, and we were in
Okay.
Mach 4 for 4.5 hours in the heat, and we were shooting rounds, and I became one of the test dummies because I was at the point where I was like, I can't take this, I can't take this, and I cracked my seal. I felt fine, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Is he alive?" And they're like, "Yeah." All right. They said, "Don, take off the mask and everything." We got to take them off.
Yeah.
We fired a couple missions, and then we got back on the road. And as we were pulling out back then, it was all time. Shoot,
Yeah.
move, communicate. Time, time, time. You have 5 minutes. You do this. You send out your advanced party. Then you send out your main party. Then you send out
Yeah.
whatever. So it was a constant leapfrog. And if
Yeah.
there was any disruption in that leapfrog, say a unit got held back, well,
Hmm.
that sucks for y'all. We're still pushing forward. You
Yeah.
still have to push forward on your time hacks. And we ended up getting the Alpha battery. That's when they got attacked and their
Yeah.
CO got hit. So they were the first ones in that convoy shutting down the road. And you had India battery that was already pulling off behind them, and they were right next to us. So we're shooting rounds.
Yeah.
And, hey, you know, we got to go. And they were like, CSMO, let's go. We got to pack up. So we start hooking up our guns, and we go maybe about 100 yards, and they're like, gun one, telling them to turn around. They're like, hip shoot, hip shoot. That one thing I was telling you about, and one of them
Yeah.
peeled off. They shot a round off, and then all of us set our guns. Literally, the trails were almost touching each other. That's how close we were. And we
No
started
kidding.
lobbing the rounds.
Wow.
And remember, I told you about that green bag?
Yeah.
We shot a Charge 5 green bag in combat at the
Wow.
barracks, and we watched the rounds on they were on delay. You could see the round hit the building like a
Yeah.
round hole, and then just whoop, it imploded. And we just
Wow.
started unleashing a whole bunch of those. India battery and Alpha battery figured, like, you know what, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna put our guns online. So they ended up peeling off the side of the road, and they had 12 guns online facing the enemy. and they decided to do a frontal attack on Alpha in India. So what do? They had a really good FDC, and he goes, "All right, a fire mission, direct fire, 18 rounds." Gave everybody the information, and they all 12 guns. Just you just see the palm trees just doing this, falling over. It was
Wow.
they did a direct fire in combat.
That's insane.
Yeah, and then
Holy
after
cow.
that, we moved up to Al Hayes,
Hmm.
going to be the last stop. That was I was part of the RCT 7 that went up Route
Hmm.
1. So what they
Yep.
did kind of made it look like we were the main effort, and the main effort would come from the flank and push their way to Baghdad. Well, once we got to Al Hayes, it was over. We did everything. We're like, man, we ain't got nothing to do. Like, can we kill
Yeah.
somebody or something? And they were like, yeah, y'all want to go to Baghdad? Like, hell yeah, let's go to Baghdad. So we turned around and took an 8-hour drive to catch up to the main effort.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one was, and our driver ended up getting the flu, so we had to do a
Oh,
driver
no.
switch during the convoy. So we had the
Yeah.
window back taken off, so we would pull him back up into the back of the truck, and the other driver would just slide into the driver's seat and start driving.
Wow.
Yep,
Wow. That's adapting and overcoming right there. That's
I
for
know,
sure.
man, isn't it? Yeah, so we pulled back, and then we met up with the main effort, and then that video that you saw, what I told you about the green,
Yeah.
that's the one we shot into Baghdad the first day we got
Okay. All right. Wow. All
there.
right. And how long then were you actually in Baghdad?
We
Because I know that's where we all kind of it all kind of stopped there in Baghdad once we took everything there.
yeah,
Uh, and then they started coming back down, right?
we spent, I want to say maybe 2 weeks, I
Yeah.
think. Don't really remember because I mean time was just not something that worried us. We didn't care about the
Yeah.
time, care about the date because we knew we were going to be there the next day anyways. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
start counting days, then they start getting longer. So I don't know how long we were there, but I know we were at the Republican Guard boot camp,
Hmm.
and while I was there, they took cannons away and we started kicking indoors. And someone had tossed a grenade, and a piece of the shrapnel came back and caught my hand, and just completely just shattered. Well, not shattered, but just tore my left hand up. So I wasn't
No
allowed
kidding.
to go back on for patrols. So they put us on a
Mhm.
vehicle convoy, me and Kaverick, and we would go to the schools and empty out the schools of all their ammunitions, so that way Baghdad can open up their schools for the kids to be able to learn again. So
Yeah.
that was awesome. We went from kicking ass to shaking hands and kissing babies, like the whole my shirt, no better friend, no worse enemy.
Yeah.
There you go. We're gonna go down one street, two-face war. We're gonna fight these guys, and the next thing we're gonna be shaking hands and kissing babies, and that's literally the way it was. But it was one of the scariest moments because we didn't take a unit. It was just a
Yeah.
convoy driver, and your crew serve gunner. And that was
Yeah.
it.
Wow. That's crazy. But that's a great testament to the Marine Corps in general, is how they're able to when it's time to turn it on and
Yeah.
start stacking bodies, they can do it. But at the same time, two streets over, they can turn it off and be there as a humanitarian effort.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. To all the listeners out there, don't forget the VA does have some great stuff out there. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can either text 939-288, or you can even go to veteranscrisisline.net, click on that chat icon. Any of those options are going to get you the help that you need. Remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. I know James cares about you, and all the veterans out there care about you. So please take care of yourself. All right, James, one last time, thanks for coming on. To all the listeners out there, stay motivated, change your socks.